Bats inside your attic. How the heck does that even happen? If you're in this position, this video is going to be an excellent resource for you. What we're going to be covering is pinpointing entry points on the exterior. So how are the bats gaining access into the attic? Once they do get inside, what type of damage can be created? How do we get the bats out and seal these areas off, ensuring they can't get back in? As you can see, I'm up on a roof right now, did an inspection on this home, and there are a colony of bats inside this attic. It's so bad that we're gonna have to come back in a couple weeks and do what we call an attic restoration, because there is so much bat guano or droppings spread throughout the insulation. So stay tuned, we'll be doing a follow-up video for that. But let's get started on the exterior, pinpointing these entry points. Now, a very important aspect to these jobs that we need to preface this entire video with is when you're dealing with bats and you're attempting to seal them outside of a home, if you are only addressing the active entry points or one or two areas on the home, you are not going to have a long-term solution. Let me explain. When we go to houses and identify the active entry points, that's going to be an area where we install what we call one-way bat doors. These are devices that simply allow the bats to exit the home, and then when they immediately return, they're unable to gain access back in. So once we come to a home and install these, the next 2 or 3 nights, the bats will continue to try and regain access inside. Once they realize they can't, the bats will start circling the house looking for other potential points to gain access back into the attic. Ask me how I know that. That is because years back when we first started, not knowing any better, we would go to homes, seal the one main active entry point, install the bat door, let them exit, thought we were good to go. A week or two later, we would get called back. So everything we speak from is from past experiences. First thing we're gonna dive into, and probably one of the most common entry points we see for the bats, is what is called ridge vent. This is that black strip that runs across the peak of roofs there. The problem with ridge vent is there are areas where it becomes lifted off the shingle, like this. And what the bats will do is they'll fly around, they will land on the shingle here, scurry on up, an area just like this, where I can get my fingers in. The bats will slip right up under that ridge vent, and then across the peak of this roof here, right under these cap shingles. If you were to go inside this attic, look straight up, you're gonna see about a 4 to 5 inch gap in the decking. So if we were to peel this back, you'd be able to look straight down into the attic. That's what the bats will do. They'll slip under this ridge vent and then drop down into the attic. There's a couple different styles of ridge vent. Here is cobra vent, which is a little less problematic. Regardless though, you can see the issue here. We're seeing, I'm gonna have another area down here like that. Now, the ridge vent is phenomenal for the attic because it provides ventilation. So we can't completely block this off and seal off the airflow. Your attic has got to be able to breathe. So what is the solution to ridge vent? It is going to be what is called ridge vent guard. Shout out to Jack Searles, our rep over at AAC Distributing. Best products on the market for our customers. Let me show you how this works here. It simply lays over top your ridge vent and gets fastened to the roof itself. It's got the small perforations in it, so it's still gonna allow for the airflow that your attic needs, but it's gonna eliminate your ridge vent itself from being able to be propped up. You can see the angles of the ridge vent. Once we secure it down, it basically clamps down onto your ridge vent itself. Phenomenal product. We've never had any issues with it. Kind of give you a zoomed out look here so you can see what it looks like. Honestly, when we install these on roofs, our homeowners say they can hardly even see them. They don't even notice they're there. It's black, so it blends in with the ridge vent itself. It's got a low profile look to it. Great touch to the ridge vent and the roofs. That is the solution to ridge vent. Another very problematic area we see are what we call soffit returns. So right here where your soffit returns all the way into the shingle there. And let me give you a closer up look. What we see, you can see this void right here where my hand's able to slip all the way in there. Now what we see with every house, sometimes these gaps are about 1/8 of an inch. We've seen some as big as 1.5 inches. It all depends on the contractor who installed the soffits here, kind of how they did their cuts. But we even see it with brand new houses. These soffit returns, usually there's always a void where bats can land right here on the shingle, scurry on up. Once they get in there, That's going to lead straight into the attic. Now with every soffit return, something that's commonly missed, if we wrap around the end here, right here we have what's called fascia and what we call our fascia return. Same thing here. Now this is a bit tighter. We've seen these get as big as an inch as well. Even though that's fairly tight, that's still something we want to seal. We want to seal all of this coming down into here as well and get that closed up. Let me go show you a few more. Here's another soffit return. Let's take a closer look at this one. Same thing going on. You can see the void. The soffit doesn't come all the way down and meet the shingle. This one is so wide open. There's actually insulation coming out of it. Now, even with it that big, something we need to know is all the bat needs is about 1/4 of an inch clearance anywhere around the perimeter of the house, and they can slip in. Right here, you can see that black little speck. That is going to be bat guano or bat droppings. There's some more of it down in this valley that leads down into the gutter. So that's a great indication. Something that you should look for are bat droppings on the exterior. This is going to help us identify this as an active entry point. So this would be a soffit return where we would install one of our one-way bat doors to allow the bats to exit and not be able to regain access back in. Next thing we're going to look at is what's called the frieze board. So this board here sits vertical, typically right beneath the soffit, and it'll wrap around the entire perimeter of the house. If you have any brick, siding, stone, usually you kind of see where I'm at here. Wherever your brick runs up, it'll run into this material here. Now what we run into, this one's fairly tight. What we see is right behind this trim here, this white trim, there's a piece of wood, and that's going to be your frieze board. Well, what happens with wood over time, with cold and hot temperatures, it contracts and expands. So we'll see this get pulled back to where the bats can slip right up under behind this frieze board and get into the attic. Now let me show you one that's actually been pulled back. Right there. Check that out. Plenty of enough space for a bat to land and get up in. Now once they get behind that, that's going to lead straight into the attic. There's another one of those soffit returns. That one looks fairly tight. Again, that's still something we would seal, preventative measures. But you can see how wide open that frieze board is. It kind of gets smaller as we go down there. And then again, this one here, this is what we want to see. Very tight. Now, how do we seal these soffit returns in areas like this? We use several different materials. A lot of times we'll use what we call excluder fabric, excluder mesh. It's got small steel cords in it. We'll stuff in there as a first layer of protection. And then we have various different sealant products. We always color match, so something like this would be white that will apply over and fill that void. So that's something you'll want to go around the entire perimeter of the home, checking this frieze board here. Oftentimes we have homes where we have to go around the entire perimeter and seal these voids. Obviously very time consuming, very tedious, especially when you're 2 stories off the ground. But that's going to be another common entry point that we see. The last one we will cover here are what we refer to as roof penetration. So any object you have to the roof itself that penetrates through the shingles and goes into the attic, you're going to have roof flashing that sits at the base of it. Now, we see this more problematic with the older roofs, but what happens, you can see the roof flashing, how it's propped up there. At one point, this one had a nail. It must have backed out and fell. You see how rusted that one is. But what we have seen in the past, the bats will expose these areas. So you got to think here, this roof flashing, once the bat gets under this roof flashing, again, plenty enough space for them to do so. This stack here, it's going to go through the decking that sits beneath the shingles and into the attic. Well, when the roofers first made their cut to fit this stack down there, their cut in the decking had to be bigger in diameter than the stack. So the bats will go beneath this roof flashing and then follow this stack down into the attic. So any roof penetration you have, this stack here, those 2 attic vents, those 3 stacks over there, we always make sure to seal the perimeter of the roof flashing, even extending up here, just as a precautionary measure, because we have seen a bat physically slip under one of these roof flashings and go down into the attic. So those are a lot of the different consistent entry points that we see on homes when bats are gaining access into the attic. I hope this video was an excellent resource for you guys. I tried to throw in some visuals in there. That way you can get an idea. Maybe you have bats inside your attic, something you can refer to and look at to help pinpoint these entry points on your home too. One thing we did not dive too deep into is, okay, once the bats do get inside my attic, what type of damage are they capable of creating? With this home specifically, we're going to be going back here in about 2 weeks to do what we call an attic restoration. Now, these projects happen when there is so much bat droppings, urine spread throughout the insulation, where we have to go up there and suck out all of the insulation until we get to the drywall, disinfect everything, install new insulation, basically restore the entire attic space. There is a lot of bat droppings inside this attic. We're going to do a part 2 of this video where we're going to take you guys along with us for this project. In the past on this channel, we've done a couple videos showing you guys what it looks like during one of these attic restorations, but we haven't gone too deep into it. What I want to do is give you guys a step-by-step and show you our exact process, what it looks like behind the scenes, our setup process, all the precautionary measures we take. Because one thing you got to keep in mind is bat droppings, this amount is nothing you want to be breathing in. So there's a lot of different things that come into play just from the safety standpoint. We're going to show you guys everything that goes into one of these projects. That way you can understand, hey, if I have bats inside my attic and it goes on for, you know, so long, what can happen? Appreciate you guys sticking around this long. If you have any questions, please drop them down below in the comments. Happy to get those answered for you. And we will see you guys in part 2 of this video for the attic restoration.